Welcome to Meeting of the Moms, a place to talk about all the things. I'm Amy Rasmussen. I'm a teacher by profession, a wife and mother by choice, an optimist by nature, and happy by design. I'm here with my good friend Lorna, who I call one of my greatest cheerleaders.
Hi, I'm Lorna Adams. I'm a wife, mom, and certified life coach. I strive to embrace and enjoy each new phase of life. Here at Moms, we believe the world is wide open to all of us and that we have unlimited potential. We're so glad you're here.
At Moms, we really do talk about all sorts of things. In this episode and the next one, we dive deep into our shared identity as disciples of Jesus Christ from the perspective of our religious beliefs found in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. These two episodes are from one conversation exploring how to elevate our Easter celebrations to focus more on the Savior Jesus Christ. While we record some of our episodes months or years before we post them, we recorded these two episodes just days before we shared them with you. Hey, Lorna.
Hi.
I am excited to talk to you about something that's been on my mind in relation to Easter. But before we dive into that, let's celebrate. And you get to go first because you have a big celebration.
I do. So our second daughter came home from Brazil, her 18-month mission, just 2 days ago. And so that has been so fun. It was so fun to be at the airport, and we had some family and friends come, and it was so fun to be there with them. And then some of her high school besties, there's 5 of them that were really close, and all of them have served missions, and my daughter's the last one to come home. So all of them were there, and they totally surprised her. After we saw family and friends, then we were walking, my husband was kind of walking with this daughter toward baggage claim, and they all pop out from around a corner. And so that was super fun. It was such a fun thing. And I am grateful for the people that love my people and that love me. They've just been so, so cool. And so maybe I'm celebrating sitting in that space too and being able to notice and love all of these people. And I'm so grateful for them.
I love the being grateful for the people who love your people. That's a fun line.
Yes, that has, like, my heart is full. It's just so great.
Yeah, so cool. And I love the connection with the gratitude stuff you shared, and then also taking time, like the celebration, like you said, being that you're taking the time to sit there and feel it and drink it all in. And I love that.
Thank you.
That's
A little
cool.
bit weepy for the last few days, but it's so good.
Yes.
It's so good.
Good weepy, right?
Yes.
Like the emotions are pouring out your eyes. That's what's happening. The joy is pouring out of your eyes.
Absolutely. Anyway, what about you, Amy? What are you celebrating?
Well, I am celebrating kind of a funny thing. I am celebrating talking to someone about a problem. So my one son was at a track meet last night, an hour away, and this morning it's like, I can't find my phone. So I was able to look it up on my phone, see where it is. Yep, it's at that other high school, an hour away. Out on the track, probably still. So obviously frustration. But when I went on my walk with my friend today, I mentioned to her I was a little later because my son had to be using my phone to try and track down his phone, all the things. And she's all, oh, that's funny. Because my niece she lives like 10 minutes beyond the place where we were, left her phone here this week. I'm like, are you kidding? So the reason I'm celebrating this is this. Like, I brought it up and I was all, wait a minute. This might save time for both of them if they meet in the middle and swap phones. Because part of the problem is getting to the high school when they're open so he can get the phone. Well, he's in school whenever their school is open. So I'm celebrating that I mentioned something, and then I'm grateful that she's open to like interfacing with her niece's family. And of course, it'd be great if the 2 high school students could work it out, but they don't have their communication devices.
Yes.
So we're doing a little bit of helping, but I was laughing that this is one of those times where just by mentioning something, a possible solution we wouldn't have thought of that could be a win-win thing is coming up.
Yay. Yes, that's awesome. That's super cool. Good.
Yeah. Well, it's really great. All right. As we dive into this Easter thing, I want you to tell the little story you already told me about who in your immediate family got to be at the airport and who didn't get to be there and kind of how you guys still made it special and we're still unified, because I have a wonderful way to connect it to my Easter stuff. So can you tell that story again?
Sounds good. Yeah. So this daughter loves the color pink. And so we knew early on that we wanted to all wear pink to the airport. And we encouraged anyone that came, wear pink if you feel like you can. Like if you have it, if you want to, wear pink. So that is exactly what we did. Our own immediate family, we all were wearing pink. But one of my children, my son, wasn't able to go with us to the airport. And so he did wear a pink shirt and he has some pink shoes that he wore to
he even has
school.
pink shoes?
Yes. Awesome. So they're white and pink. So anyway, they're really cute. But so he wore those to school and he had to take a test that day, the ACT test. So he wore that for his test. And then he had a baseball game here at home that same day. And so he did send a picture a little bit later of his wrist wrapped in pink tape because he knows his sister loves it. So it was just so tender. And I just love that this, my son, the 16-year-old, is being a little bit thoughtful about his sister, even though he isn't able to be with her. So anyway, that's how that played out.
I love that. So the word that came to mind, probably because it's been on my mind for other stuff, is that as a family, you elevated the experience of going to get your daughter. And you elevated the experience even of your son not being able to be there in person, with how all the pieces came together. And I looked Elevate up recently. Elevate means to improve and raise the spirits of. And so you didn't do something super crazy complicated. He didn't have to use pink tape. He didn't go and buy the shoes to have pink shoes or whatever. He's just like, cool, I got pink shoes, I'm going to wear them. So, and you did a little work letting people know and stuff, but it was also kind of low-hanging fruit because she has a favorite color that everybody knows. So how by elevating it, it created an opportunity for more connection and feeling together, even though you had to be apart.
What I was going to say, I do feel like there was that connection, that we were all on the same page. We were all unified in that purpose, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, super cool.
Yes.
There of course were some people that weren't able to wear pink. And there was a point in the airport where just a bystander was like, do you want me to take a picture of you guys? And so we're all kind of standing there and I'm like, well, not all of us can be in it. People kind of spread out a little bit and she's like, but you guys all look so cute and you're pink. I should still take the picture. So I just kind of talked to whoever was around, like, anyone wearing pink, come get in the picture. And it was such an elevated experience. And for my daughter, I know it added more joy to her heart, because that is the color that she sees, any shade, and just loves it. So I think it absolutely elevated the experience for her as well as for us to be united.
And what's interesting is that for that person who took the picture, like if that had been me taking the picture, it could have elevated my day at the airport just randomly. Not even because it meant anything to me, but it's interesting how sometimes the things we do that elevate an experience for us randomly elevate it for someone else too.
Yes.
And
I agree.
Fun.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So Elevate's been on my mind because in our faith, we recently had a leader who encouraged us to elevate our celebration of Easter. And so I've been thinking about this idea of elevate our celebration of Easter. And within our faith, we've had lots of people posting some lists of ideas of how to elevate the celebration of Easter so it's more centered on Jesus Christ. And so people have put lists out. We have magazines, and in the magazines, there's ideas for children and for teens and for adults. And then I went to an event with my mom, and there was someone who gave a whole bunch of ideas of how she did it. And here's what's interesting. Sometimes, at least in our community, sometimes we can hear elevate and we translate that into escalate and complicate. And so kind of this whole experience with thinking about Easter and what I want Easter to mean for me and what I want to mean for my household and what I think our leader means by elevate. I've been doing a lot of thinking about it, and I don't think he meant to escalate it or to complicate it. And so I thought we could talk today about how to wrap our brains around how to elevate something, in this case Easter, but it could apply to lots of things, how to elevate something without the escalation or the complication and the added stress and the things where I guess in the end we almost ruin the event because we spazzed out about it. We miss the boat sometimes. So that's where I want to go today. That's what I want to talk about. But what are your initial thoughts?
Well, it does make me think about the concept. For me, it's been Christmas that has felt like so much pressure. I want it to be just right. I want it to be special and a surprise and all of those things. Yes. And I used to put lots of pressure on myself. And of course my kids have gotten older, so that's helped.
Right.
But I really have learned my own mindset around Christmas has shifted as well. So it can be more fun and uplifting. And so I love the words elevate, right? Elevate the celebration rather than the others complicating.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to say that definition again, because it actually was a while before, like a bunch of my processing happened. And then I thought, why don't I look up what elevate means? Usually that's like a first place I go. So I'm just going to say the definition again. And this is from Merriam-Webster's. Elevate means to improve and raise the spirits of. That really clarifies for me as I'm going into something like, does this actually improve it and raise the spirits of? And for me, adding pressure and stress and exhaustion, that doesn't feel like and raise the spirits of.
Yes.
Right? Not that I don't know that anyone would be like, oh, absolutely, that raises the spirits for me. But just to be clear, like what the feelings I'm having, I can maybe start differentiating between what raises the spirit and what doesn't. I also really love getting ideas. And I'm often someone who's like, oh, that sounds fun, and that sounds fun, and that sounds fun. Let's do everything. And so I love the idea of filing a list of options and ideas.
I was going to say, like you like to hear all the ideas, but you're not going to implement all of them, right? So keep going with your compile the ideas.
Sometimes, just to be real with everybody, sometimes I'm like, let's do it all. And then I can turn into a total spaz. And especially my family can be like, why are we doing everything? So even if it's life-giving to me, there are family members who are like, I am really tired now. This is not more fun. So I need to take into account, one, that I love the excitement and all the ideas. And sometimes I love implementing everything, but sometimes it also can take my energy in a way that later I'm not necessarily thrilled with how my energy budget went. And I'm also aware of my family members who they're like, can we just sit quietly? That sounds nice. So both of those things come into it.
Yes, totally. And I think that's a great point, right? That we want to assess what will work for our family. And I also, as you were saying that, and like sometimes there's things that just we can do individually that would feel good to us, that it doesn't have to be a whole family thing. And we can still have an elevated experience. So I love that. I love that, being mindful of both things.
Absolutely. So here's what I was thinking. I often look at these lists of ideas. I don't look at them like a to-do list. So this has been something that's been really helpful for me to notice about myself and notice about why things can be overwhelming, either to myself or others. But I often look at things like a menu. This is a menu. I just get to choose what's awesome. And yet I have been in situations where it feels like a checklist, a to-do list. And then I absolutely I've sat with people who it feels heavy because it's like, okay, now let me give you a whole huge thing to do. Like you just recovered from Christmas. Here's another Christmas. Yeah. And obviously there's a whole conversation around, well, we don't have to do Christmas that way either. Right. And yet we also are in a culture where, okay, well, Christmas is done that way. So being counterculture has its own thing. So there's a whole thing. But I think this is fun because going into Easter, we can kind of decide a little bit more because you don't already have a whole culture that has created something that maybe isn't serving us. We can create what will serve us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the timing that we're talking about this a couple weeks before Easter to give some people a heads up. I'm grateful that we're talking about it now so I can be more intentional about what I want Easter to look like. We're just a little bit before St. Patrick's Day, and then Easter this year is just a couple weeks after. Sometimes it's later in April. And so it's fun that it's just close, that we're just, it's on our radar right now.
Yes. Yes. So what I would love to do is, I want to show you at least some of the list that was given at the presentation I went to. And I think what might be helpful, if you're willing, is if we model what it looks like to look at each item on this list and actually verbalize how it feels when we look at that item. Okay. Because I think if we notice how we feel when we see an idea, then we can determine, is that something to take into what I'm doing this year or is it not? So are you
Yes.
up for that?
Well, and that's what I was going to say about the menu too, is it's fun to let it spark ideas or even like, so yes, I want to do that or no, I don't. Or I don't necessarily, I'm not going to do that, but it does make me think of this other thing that I could do. So I
Yes.
love that. Being really open to
Yep.
whatever could be fun and exciting, maybe
Yep.
interesting, appealing, whatever,
Yes.
whatever.
Yep. What I did love about the person who presented this, one thing that she said is, Easter moves around every year. So even if maybe just figure out, like Google it, why does Easter move around? So you can understand why. And then maybe just put a reminder in your phone. I don't know, February 1st or whatever you want to do. That's like, when is Easter this year? Because the very first thing is like, do I have a desire to elevate my Easter tradition? And I have answered that with a yes. So, that's what I'm stepping into. But I imagine that some people are like, I can't, or I don't even want to. It's too much. Okay. Then that right there probably allows a person to know, not this year.
Yeah.
And then my magical time, which is, do I want to elevate Easter? And if you're in the do I want to, that is totally a great place to be too. And so you can kind of explore it within yourself, even as you see lists or hear lists. If something sparks, like Lorna said, if something sparks, like maybe I do want to elevate Easter, if that's all it means, then you can like roll with that. But also, you might just be in a want to year, and that's okay too. We don't have to
Yeah.
force ourselves to do things.
Well, and I like the idea about the calendar, maybe saying a reminder, because it really does change every year. Our
Right.
school district, the interesting thing that our school district does is it ties our spring break to Easter every single year.
Mm-hmm.
So the Sunday of Easter is always the last day of our spring break. Sometimes I think that's really great, and sometimes I think it's really hard. So, it
Right.
really is year to year. And so even
Yeah.
that, like, just what's this kind of year looking like? What's our spring break going to look like? Anyway, I like the giving it a little bit more time to be mindful of, to be deciding
Mm-hmm.
how we want to handle things.
Yep. And I've been in school districts that do that, and I've been in school districts where it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's another thing. That's a really good point, because then you're like, well, when's spring break? It's not a regular time every year because it moves with
Yes.
Easter.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
that can be hard. Okay. First list: Shrove Tuesday and Ash Wednesday, Lent, Lazarus Saturday, Palm Sunday, Cleansing Monday, Parable Tuesday, Teaching Tuesday, Spy Wednesday, Betrayal Wednesday, Forgiveness Wednesday, Anointing Wednesday, Maundy Thursday. I would have to Google what Maundy means. Last Supper Thursday, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Salvation Saturday, Holy Saturday, Saturday of Light, Saturday of Glory, Easter Sunday, Resurrection Sunday. This whole list looks at many Christian traditions of things that they celebrate during the whole Easter season, and then specifically at Holy Week and what their names are, and how you could actually celebrate all of these things. Initial thoughts, feelings, what's going on?
Yeah. My initial thoughts are this feels like a lot. Every day I have to do something. And my second part of that is, and I've tried this and it didn't always go well to some extent. I have
Yep.
tried as my kids were younger and, throughout the different years of Easter, and it didn't
Yep.
always go well. Some things went really well. And I know I have shared with you, and I think we've told our audience too, that there's a gal that has really great ideas that she has put out into the world about holidays and all the things. And I've tried to implement some of her things, and I'm like, it does not sit the same way at my house and in me to do it like she does. It is always such a great, fantastic thing for her. And for me, it feels heavy and scary and hard. Scary is probably not the right word, but
Right.
just like heavy and like hard. Like, I don't know
Right.
if everyone's on board and this isn't really working like I thought it would, and how she shares it.
Right.
So,
And maybe scary, like that feeling of apprehension. Is it gonna work? Is it actually gonna be fun? That's what I heard when you said scary. Yeah. So when I look at this, same kind of thing. I'm like, I don't think I can maintain doing something every single day. And just to be clear, this woman was never saying do all these things. Instead, she said, this is what I learned from other Christian faiths about some of the things that they do. So the first thing to notice is that seems like too much for me. Something I might do at this stage is like, do I like any one of these things just for me? Does Cleansing Monday sound like that would be nice if I could just clean my mind out? Or does Forgiveness Wednesday resonate with me? This last Christmas, I did a forgiveness project. And so maybe I'm like, yeah, I did the forgiveness project. It was great. And now by March, I'm like, I have some more work to do there. I'm going to do that one. So I might look at the list again with the idea of, is there one thing?
Yeah. Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and then Easter Sunday, Resurrection Sunday. So those were the ones that kind of stood out to me as you were reading them. And I love even being mindful of there are some different ways and different things that could be helpful throughout that week if we want to, or even Amy, as we're reading this and it's feeling a little bit heavy for both of us to try and do every single day of the days leading up to Easter. Maybe we just choose a Sunday that we do Palm Sunday stuff, even if it's not the Sunday right before Easter. Or the Tuesday, a teaching Tuesday or a parable. Anyway, that's kind of a fun idea too. In weeks leading up to it. Maybe maybe I would want to pull that apart and do it a little bit differently.
Yeah. But I love the idea that it's not like, well, that's what the calendar says. Okay. Just use it to spark an idea. Yeah. And one other thing too is, for me at least, I look at some of these and I'm like, well, what's Shrove Tuesday? I don't even know what that is. And the woman who presented this, lived in England for a while and with her children and everything. So she was surrounded by other Christian faiths, and her children were. And so she learned more about how those faiths celebrated Easter. And then she started noticing that some of these things could elevate what she and her family did. And so I think this is a list of like things we've done over the years or things I've learned about it over the years. So I could see myself being like, I just want to know what Shrove Tuesday is. I'm going to spend 5 minutes, Google it, learn about it. That's all I'm taking from this list, because sometimes that's where the headspace I'm in. I'm in this learning phase. Yeah.
Part of me is thinking, I want whatever I decide I want to do, I want to have the right mindset for it. Because even as we're talking, I'm thinking about even decorating for Easter a little bit. Just the idea of, would this be a fun year to pull out something? And what would I want that to look like? And is that going to elevate just enough in my own mind as I have it out and I'm seeing it, where I'm not a big decorator for all the holidays, but maybe this is a year I want to.
Lorna and I continue our conversation about elevating our Easter celebrations in the next episode. Thanks for coming to Meeting of the Moms. We hope it made your load a little lighter. We'd love to hear what's on your mind. Send your celebrations, takeaways, and suggestions for future topics to momswithamyandlorna@gmail.com.
If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. If this isn't the right fit for you, we wish you well on your journey. Until next time, I'm Lorna Adams.
And I'm Amy Rasmussen. See you next week at Moms.